Hello everyone and welcome back on BlockGems. On BlockGems we talk about what is going on in the non-fungible tokens space, and today we're going to talk about Axie Infinity and what it means to buy or to own a piece of land in the Axie Infinity gaming universe. If you're not familiar with what Axie Infinity is a gaming platform fully hosted on the blockchain, where you can battle monsters that are inspired by Pokemons, are similar to Pokemons. You can also breed these monsters, you can have adventure, you can meet new friends, and the kind of problem, so to speak, that the Axie Infinity project is tackling is very similar to the problem that other gaming universes hosted on the blockchain are trying to tackle as well. Other similar projects could be the Sandbox, Mirandus, Upland, and similar projects. And the idea in all these gaming projects is to create a virtual world, a parallel virtual world, completely decentralized, hosted on the blockchain, that you can own a piece of. So the idea that you can take part into another economy, either by taking an active role as a player and contributing to the space, or by owning a piece of land in that environment. In order to evaluate this investment, what I wanted to do was to compare the ownership of a piece of land in Axie Infinity with the ownership of a land lot into what I consider the closest project that is available today, which is the Sandbox. So let's look at the prices. First of all, without any other consideration, the cheapest entry ticket, so to speak, in the Axie Infinity world stands at about, say, 0.3904 Ether, whereas the entry ticket in the Sandbox, this is the secondary market for a lot of land in the Sandbox gaming universe, stands at 0.2. By the way, I made another video about the Sandbox and the ownership of land and the sales of land that I link up here for you to see if you're interested, if you want to learn more about this specific universe and the land sales as well. And as mentioned, we can see that the price differences are different in the sense that you need to spend about the double on Axie Infinity to have an entry ticket in this world. But just looking at the price level, of course, doesn't tell us much, because we do not know, we do not see which level of utility an average user or an average owner would get from owning a piece of land in the Sandbox or owning a piece of land in Axie Infinity. So it is very hard to make an apple-to-apple comparison, but we will try our best. This is what we are trying to do here. We will try to evaluate this investment opportunity in a comparative perspective. Now, if we go and look at the topic of scarcity between these two worlds, we can see that the number of plots of land that are available in the Sandbox environment stands at 166,000, while in the Axie Infinity world we are looking at a map that is much smaller. We are looking at about 90,000 lots. However, in both the universes, some land will be is already pre-allocated to the game or to points of interest that belong to the game. In the case of the Sandbox, also could belong to some partners. So you can look at a figure that is 2/3 of buyable, of purchasable land in this environment. And sort of the same kind of estimate can be made for the Axie Infinity gaming universe. And this is because out of that 301 times 301 map, so out of these 90,000 lots, only about 68,000 will be made available for sale. And this is because the rest will represent streets, rivers, or other points of interest. Now, let's keep on looking at the prices and make further considerations. So, as mentioned in the sandbox, if you want to own a piece of land at the prices that we can see today, you need to fork on 0.2 Ether as an entry ticket. However, a piece of land that is rather central can be in the 0.3 to 0.4 range. By central, I mean more or less this area here for exactly that piece of land that we were looking at just now. But being central in the sandbox can be important, but it's not as near as important as it would be in Axie Infinity, which is what makes the comparison harder, because the utility that you would get from being close to the center in the sandbox is not as near as high as the level of utility that you could get from owning a piece of land that is very close to the center. And let me explain why. So in the Axie Infinity world, you have different tiers of land. You have savanna, you have forest, you have Arctic and Mystic land. You also have a legendary land, but let's say that this is out of our considerations for now. And the level of resources that are available on the savanna land are very, very limited. There is much more diversity already on the forest land. That kind of diversity keeps on increasing the more you go toward the center. And having more diversity of resources is evidently very important for the game. Although we do not have the full specs of the project already to make completely, perfectly informed considerations in our investment strategies. This, however, is something to keep in mind, and it's already reflected in the price, because as mentioned, we are looking at an increase of 50% as you move close to the center. Of course, there will be higher prices, but something that seems to be more important on the sandbox is the ownership of more lots of lands connected one to each other. So owning a lot of collected lands, so-called estates of land in the sandbox. Instead, in Axie Infinity, it seems to be very, very valuable to own lands with given characteristics and typically either close to streets and close to rivers, or close to the center, or both. So let's take a look at the prices of just the next tier of land. We can see that basically the moment we move one tier up, we are looking at a plus 50%. And the moment we go one extra tier up, we see that the curve of price increase is very, very dramatic. If we got the Mystic level, it gets very, very expensive, as we can see here from the price levels that we have here. Now, is this the only considerations that we can make? No, it is important to start looking at the level of maturity of the project, the level of adoption that the project has so far. So before we get into that, there is still yet another consideration that is super important to make. As of today, Axie Infinity has rolled out an improvement in terms of the pure economics of their gaming environment. This is because they rolled out a sidechain called Ronin, which is live right now and usable right now. What does this entail? What does this imply? That I don't have to pay those ridiculous Ethereum fees to play this game, to take part in this universe. And why is that important? So if you are participating into a DeFi project where you made an investment of tens of thousands of dollars, paying a $100 fee to make a transaction, it is not that dramatic, not that impactful, because it will account of only 1% of the underlying assets that you're moving. But in a game where you're buying stuff for $10, $20, and the transaction price for that asset is $100, that's completely uneconomical. Now, what I found very interesting is that Axie Infinity has already rolled out a solution to this problem, a solution that you might like or not, because you might think that running is too much of a centralized solution, not safe enough, that might have so many problems, but still they have come up with a solution for the Ethereum gas fees. On the other hand, in the sandbox environment, they're still fully reliant on the Ethereum network. So it is very hard to imagine a gaming environment where you need to pay $100 in fees to transact on a $10 asset or on a $10 prop. Now, that being said, let's look at the maturity of the projects. Let's look at the users that are actually there already. If we look at Axie Infinity, what we can see that I found very, very interesting is that the number of users already there, already using the platform, is particularly high already. We are talking about sometimes spikes are above 1,000 or 2,000 even, and it's picking up in Steam in the most recent times. Now, if we make exactly that judgment for the sandbox, we see that we don't almost never reach 1,000 users. And of course, the level of maturity is completely different because there is no live version of the sandbox. However, there is a live version of Axie Infinity. So, as mentioned, it is hard to make a comparison, but this is the best that we can do because these are the most resembled projects out there that have this same feature. And from what we can see right now is that at least in my opinion, and this is not investment advice, the most expensive asset class, which is the Axie Infinity land, is the most expensive, but is also the most undervalued one. If we look at the data, if we just look at the amount of users, the maturity of the project, the utility that an owner can get out of it, we are looking at an environment that is much more mature, and that if we look at a price comparison, it makes you more justified an investment in the Axie Infinity world than in the sandbox. Of course, this is not investment advice. This is just what I think and what I'm sharing with you. And if you believe this is useful, if you believe that all these resources could be valuable tools in your toolbox, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. I will put all the pages that you saw right now in the description below so that you can make your own resource. And until the next video, bye.